Jason. Good night. Good night, Jason Phillips.
Hi, good evening, Marcia. Good evening, the good people
Yes.
of St. Peter and by extension, Barbados. Listen, I don't know if your internet is sticking. Or if I'm beginning to stick, let me know, and I will change over to my phone, my own data.
Yes. Yes. Well, so far you seem fine. There was a little delay at the beginning, but you seem fine now.
Okay.
Yes. So what will
Hmm.
I'm just going to let you go right ahead because we took a little bit of your time, and I don't want to take any of your time. We want to hear everything that the BLP government, the record speak for itself. Listen, get your pen and papers and get ready. I got mine. Go right ahead, Mr. Phillips.
Well, Barbadians, a government by measurable results, not slogans, not public relations, nor personalities. The facts speaks for themselves. And earlier this week, I put out a video, which I'm going to begin with. If you look at what's happening in Barbados now, we are seeing a collapse in the confidence of the electoral system. And in 2026, we recorded the lowest vote turnout ever in the history of Barbados. Now, we have 290,000 Barbadian citizens on this rock. And according to the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, we have 273,619 people registered to vote. And I'm saying that number seems awfully close to the number of Barbadians. Because if you look at people who are institutionalized, I mean, either in the mental hospital, at the various geriatric hospitals around the island, the Lone General Hospital, Queen Elizabeth Hospital, prison, those who are home sick and so on, that number of 273,619 seem awfully close to the number of Barbadians here, 290,000, between 280,000 to 290,000. I believe that the voters list was key in the last general election. And where there's an issue with the voters list, it undermines the integrity of the ballot. Barbadians are now asking questions. Things don't seem right. And remember, immediately after the general election, the head of the EBC, the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, was elevated to the position of senator. I will continue to drive home this point, because if you have an institution, an agency that is supposed to supervise and run elections in Barbados, and immediately after the election, we get the head of that institution being selected or appointed as a senator, we are asking the question, was that a reward for any reason? And I use the word any reason broadly. It does not look good. It looks bad. Because if we are playing a game of cricket or football, and immediately after the game, the umpire or the referee is seated with the winning side having some beers, it looks bad. It looks as though the integrity of the sport was undermined by the referee or the umpire, even if he was fair. Now, of that 273,947 persons who were registered to vote, we only saw 115,619 persons actually voting. And that equates to 42.2% of the electorate. In other words, if you round it off, only about 40% of the people who were eligible to vote in Barbados actually voted. So it's saying that 60 or the average of 60% of Barbadians did not vote. But it gets even worse, because if you look at that 40% of people who actually voted and we dissect that number, let's say we give 13% to the Democratic Labour Party and another 2% to the other parties that participated in the last election, we're looking at 15% there. And if it's 15% people who supported the opposition, then we can conclude that this government that is in power, the Barbados Labour Party government, led government, only had approximately 25% of the vote. It means now to say that about 75%, which is about 3/4 of the population of eligible voters, did not vote for the Barbados Labour Party led government. And this is really a minority government. They might walk around acting high and mighty, talking about being red and ready, but they're not ready, and the population is not ready for them, right? And it actually, to put things into perspective, you have 158,000 people saying that they didn't want either party, but you're saying that you have 3/4 of this population saying we do not want the Barbados Labour Party government either. This is a very serious thing. And what adds insult to injury, it weakens parliamentary democracy because there is no opposition in parliament. And even if government ministers initially had good intentions, we know that absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's no one in government to question money bills. No one is questioning how much money government is raking in taxes, how much taxpayer dollars they are spending on certain things. Already we saw a lot of nonsense with Carrie Fester. They wanted to spend about 3 or 4 million, and already we have statistics pointing to over $30 million. We know that this government borrowed a lot of money to fix the roads. And when we look around, we see one road getting fixed, but the vast majority of roads are not being fixed. Government is collecting a lot of taxes from the fuel. One time you used to go and pay a road tax, and now they collect the taxes through the fuel. So the government is getting a wash of money from taxes through a fuel, because even the guy who let in the grass with his lawnmower or bushwhacker, if you run a generator at home, what would equate to road tax, you are also paying that. So government is, instead of getting money from people owning cars and buses and trucks and so on, they're now taxing the fuel, so they're getting a bigger net. The net is cast over everyone that use fuel. So this government is getting record numbers of money, and we are not seeing value for money in this regard. If we move on to crime, violent crime contributes to a very vexing feeling, and government must publish measurable crime reduction targets and be held accountable for achieving them. To date, we are not satisfied with the level of crime in Barbados. The last chief commissioner of police said that he knew who the perpetrators were that committed the crime downtown the Bay. To date, he never came back to the public. I am asking this government to show measurable outcomes in the reduction of crime, because we are getting too many victims and we are having too many grieving Barbadians. Too many of our young people are dying. And if we move on to our birth rate, we're losing a lot of people, but if we move on to our birth rate, we notice that, I think it was in 2001, when we look at the percentage, we had 8.7 per 1,000 population, and it went down to I want to look for these figures, 8.2 that was in 2021 to 8.2 right in 2021. Right, so Barbados is facing a demographic crisis. The official birth rate declined from 8.7 birth per 1,000 population in 2020 to 8.2 in 2021 and 8.48 in 2022. In 2025, Barbados recorded only 1,915 live births, while 3,113 deaths were recorded. In other words, we are getting less children, and we're losing over 3,000 people per year. We're only producing just under 2,000 people, and we are getting deaths 3,000. So more Barbadians are dying than are being born, and this means an aging population. That has a lot of bearing. One, that's going to cause a lot of pressure on taxes, a lot of pressure on pensions. It have implications for our workforce as well. But similarly, we're still seeing these high numbers on the voters list. Who is voting in Barbados? We want to know, who are these people? Where are they coming from? Right? Barbadians are not foolish. Barbadians are not sleeping. They are quietly observing what is going on. These are the fundamental issues that keep Barbadians thinking and discussing in their kitchen, in their patios, at the shop, at the end of a game of cricket or football. Barbadians are beginning to speak up. And this government must remember that it's a minority government. It does not really have a mandate from the majority of people in Barbados. Right? And I searched the internet tonight just before it came online. And I was trying to figure out how many people became citizens in Barbados in the last year or the last 2 or 3 years. And you know, there are no real figures to point to. We know that you can become a citizen by descent. That's where you're born in a foreign land, but either your father or mother is a Barbadian. You become a citizen that way. We know that you can become a citizen by naturalization. You're living here for a number of years, let's say 5 or 7 years. And you can become a citizen by marriage. But when I actually look for concrete figures through the immigration department or what have you, I am not seeing figures, Marcia. And people are becoming citizens in Barbados, and we don't know how many. How many are becoming citizens and how they're becoming citizens? We can't say X amount became citizens through naturalization, X amount of citizens became citizens, persons became citizens by descent, X amount of persons became citizens by marriage. We just do not know what's going on. And this government must be held accountable. They must tell Barbadians what is going on with our citizenship program. They must also, another thing that I want to talk about before you come on, Marcia, we notice in the supermarket now that we see a lot of prices on food items. $10.97, $5.68. In other words, proprietors are now rounding up. Not because we don't have cents in Barbados anymore. We go from 5 cents up. And we need government to pay attention to this. We need stronger consumer legislation to protect the consumer. Why are you rounding up numbers? In other words, over time, this tends to make groceries more and more expensive. Already the VAT is too high. It should have been lowered by now. But when we round up these figures, these 3 cents and 4 cents accumulated over time turns out to be thousands of dollars in a few months. So if you buy 10 items and it round up at 4 cents, 10 fours is what? 40, that's 40 cents. And when you go in the supermarket and you shop at the end of the month, sometimes you might buy 100 items. So this week you might $4 extra. Next week you might spend $6. On average, you might not realize that you might spend $20 extra because they're rounding up figures. And government must represent the people. Right now, with this one-party state, we have a de facto one-party state and we have a de facto dictator because we do not have an elected opposition. We do not, and the parliament is very, very, very weak and is further weakened. I spoke about this the last time. we have this anti-deflection legislation. I want to bring it back up, Marcia. When you have this legislation, now it says to the member of parliament that you are supposed to toe the party line. And if you disagree with the party leadership or you offend the party in any way, they can put you. It goes beyond just crossing the floor. Read the legislation and see. If a parliamentarian realizes that he cannot really disagree with the party bosses, the party leadership, he is at pains to balance his representation. When he looks at representing the interests of the constituents versus representing the interests of his party, if he wants to remain, if he or she wants to remain in the party and in parliament, he's going to have to side with the party. And therefore, it undermines parliamentary sovereignty, it undermines representation. These are the fundamental issues that Barbadians are concerned with. This piece of legislation has really strengthened the hand of the Prime Minister. She now has a chokehold over members of parliament. They cannot have freedom of conscience. They cannot really represent the people. They cannot get and say in St. Peter, like what's happening in St. Peter again in Six Men's Village, the water is now again brown. Just before elections, the water was looking clear. Now again, the water is getting brown. It is nasty. It is not portable. And we're not hearing from the member of parliament for St. Peter speaking up on behalf of the residents of St. Peter. I was in St. Peter last month. I spoke about the horrible road conditions over there. The roads in Farm Road, I actually sat in one of those potholes. You probably have it there still. And about 3 days afterwards, he came and said that they are going to be fixing roads in Spikestown. Well, I have news for the Barbados Labour Party-led government and the member of parliament for St. Peter. I will be in the field and I will come back to the issues that the people brought to me, because I am going to represent them if you are not going to represent them.
Yeah.
You can ask me some questions. I spoke a lot.
Yeah. No, but it's important for us to be able to hear exactly what is, what you're saying, especially, you're looking at basically the report card of this government, and so I listened to you intently, and I wondered, are you saying that do you think then that every ministry should publish probably an annual scorecard, right, showing what targets they were that were promised and what targets they actually achieved? Because we would have heard a lot of promises during election, like you talked about the water in St. Peter, in a particular part in St. Peter that was clear before the election. No, the election is over and the water is gone back to dirty. I'm hearing the same thing for St. Lucie. So should there be annual scorecards showing what targets were promised and what targets were actually achieved?
Marcia, you are exactly correct. People get on a bandwagon, they hold a lot of facts and parties, and they try to woo the public. But that does not make you an effective government. It does not make you a viable government. A government should be judged by measurable results, not slogans, not public relations, not personalities. We must move beyond that. And Barbadians are seeing the shenanigan of the Barbados Labour Party. They have been able in a short span to woo people through facts and parties and so on. But now, where are the results? The roads are still in a state of disrepair. Like even our highways, there are still potholes all over the place. The roads are in a state of disrepair. You have stretches of the highway. I'm not even talking about minor roads or roads in the country. I'm talking about the highways and byways, the highways in Barbados. You have coming from Mile and Quarter to Bakers in St. Peter, almost 2 kilometers, not a single street light burning. And I'm not lying on these people. You can go on the highway and look for yourself. And the further north you come, the worse it gets. This government has abandoned ordinary Barbadians.
Yes.
And that is why we now have an issue with migrant labor. I was on the news this morning speaking about it. And I want to tell Tony Moore that even though you are a union boss and you came out and spoke against the unacceptable living conditions of migrant workers, we also know that you are part of the problem because you are part of this government. And you should either have known or you know and you did nothing. So government is either unable to deal with the situation or is ignoring the situation. And even though you want to wear two hats, we know there's a conflict of interest. You really cannot represent two masters. You're either going to lie to one and deceive the other. And we can see what is happening. She should not have waited until there was a press release to play that she coming out and talking. She is part of government policy. And contracts should not have been awarded unless you know who these people are and where they're going to live and so on and so forth. You should not have awarded contracts if government did not inspect where these people were going to stay. So you're crying foul. She's crying foul.
Yeah. Well, Jason, this is someone said, the people, we have become, I guess, caught up in a lot of party promises. We've been political slogans, instead of demanding, as you talked about, measurable results. We are more focused on the slogans and on the speeches and so on. But my final question to you, Jason, if government had to stand before Barbadians every year and defend itself, right? And using using only measurable outcomes rather than the speeches and the announcements, do you think that our politics would look very different today?
Yes, because remember what a member of parliament is. A parliamentarian is a representative for a constituency, a group of people within a certain location on the island. And each constituency may have a different need. Some might have similar needs. But a parliamentarian is not a celebrity, he's a servant. Mm-hmm. And therefore, if you know that your seat is dependent on your stewardship over a prescribed period of time, 5 years, and at the end of that 5 years, you cannot give account for the work you have done, then and you are found wanting, you might even find yourself wanting a seat too. But how it is now, we have no opposition in parliament to question these people. So a lot of things are happening under the rug that Barbadians do not even understand or know of. This government, right? So therefore, I must say, Barbados deserve leadership that can restore confidence. We need low cost of living. We need reduce crime. We need to grow the economy. And I want to stick a pen there because I don't have much time. Marcia, I want to say it to you very slowly. Our debt right now stands at 94.6%. That means that on a yearly basis, the amount of money that we generate in every dollar, we have to spend $94.60 servicing our debt. It means that we got just over 5 cents. We got 5 cents basically to pay for our services. That would be education, healthcare, repair roads, pay police officers, and so on and so forth. So this government is walking around keeping a lot of noise about modest improvements. It's a very serious thing. 94.6% of our GDP, right, is spent on servicing debt. This government needs to grow the economy. It needs to support Barbadian families.
Yeah.
It needs to recover our demographics. We do not have enough babies being produced in Barbados, and if you look quietly, we are bringing a lot of foreigners. And I heard Maxine earlier spoke about it. Barbadians want work, but this government seems to be treating the migrant workers better than the Barbadians, and Barbadians are going to be very, very. Barbadians are going to remember that. That's all I'm going to say, right?
Yeah.
We need to protect the integrity of our citizenship and, by extension, our passport, right? And we need to restore faith in our democracy. The facts speaks for themselves. Barbadians deserve better.
Correct. Correct. Wow. The people deserve better. The people deserve answers. And once again, Mr. Phillips, thank you. And we are
Yeah.
very excited.
That can be a half hour already.
Yes, it is, because it's going so good. It's going so good. And so we look forward to having you next week. We are going to go right into this black belly sheep, which we've been promising the people to talk about.
Viewers, we must hold Marcia's feet to the fire. Hold her feet. She just do this to me every week.
But it's 30 minutes. Miss McLean had 30 as well.
5 to 6 minutes.
But because it's so good, you're doing such a great job, then it seems it does go through.
Marcia, when you come in St. Peter and do a video, you promise me for the longest while.
I will. I plan to. I really plan
I want to see that video one more time before I go.
Repeat, please. Oh, you want to see your video? Dave, let's play the video with Jason just before he goes. Okay, folks, as we are as Jason is closing out this very informative session tonight, we are getting ready to talk about the black belly sheep. We're going to ask you to get ready to call in. We want to present some of the information to you, and then you can call in. Go ahead, Dave. That was you. We missed him there. Yeah.
Hey, Owen.
Listen, you can't come in this video because you're too young. But I want all the good people, good evening, ma'am, how you doing? I want all the good people to see that I am here in Golden Mile. And I am born here with my people. That's enough, now stop there.
All right, Mr. Phillips, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. So we see you again next week, Sunday. Yes, thank you.
Yes. And goodbye to the good people. No, until next time, good people of St. Peter and Barbados. Thank you, Marcia.
God bless you. God bless you, Jason.
You as well.